Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blank and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC television podcast. I am your host, once again, Trey Plotnicki, and I hope you all had a fantastic weekend. Sorry I wasn't there to wish you into the weekend. I'll talk about that a little bit later, and I'll talk about how what happened really affected me coming on the show today. Let's go over what we're going to talk about today. At the beginning, I'll talk about a little bit of my television interests and some of the stuff that's coming up and some of the stuff that I'm really excited for that's coming up. Then we're going to talk about, because it's Tuesday, I'm going to talk about some of the documentaries I've been watching, and those two are quite the doozy. So I'm really excited to talk about. Well, the first one's quite a doozy. The second one is fun. You know, it's fun. And lastly, The Boys came on Friday, and I wasn't able to talk about it on Friday. So I'm going to talk about it today, because I can. So let's just hop right into it. So if you notice that I am a little sluggish a bit in my speaking, it's because I had a pretty bad migraine. It's actually the first time that this has happened in a while. I used to get migraines when I was younger, pretty frequently. It was actually pretty bad, like to the point where I had to go get an MRI and figure out what was wrong. And the doctor, I got an MRI, and my mom was like, "Well, is there anything in his brainwaves that we can derive from why is he getting these screaming migraines? He sounds like he's in so much pain, like something's wrong." And the doctor was like, Try having him drink less orange juice. He drinks a lot of orange juice, right? And I think that was kind of the beginning, because I drink a gallon, maybe 2 gallons of water a day. That was kind of the beginning of me drinking a lot of water, a ton of water. So that was pretty good outcome, I would say. Pay for an MRI in America and then get out of it super hydration for the rest of your life. And I did cut out orange juice for the most part out of my diet. I think it was the citrus. But what had happened was I was playing. I was usually in the evening. I take my evening off and I play some games with my friends. And all of a sudden I had this blind spot in my eye. And I was like, what? What's going on? And I think this was Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was this Wednesday. Yeah, this had to be Wednesday. It was Wednesday evening, around 5. All day that day I was driving around because I have a second job as a delivery driver. And so I get this spot in my eye, and I was like, that's never happened before. And I keep looking at the spot, but it's super annoying because the spot is right off the side of my vision, so every time I try to look at it, it shifts over, and I'm like, that's really annoying, and that's probably not something just on my eye. So, because if it was a contact situation where it was I don't know, a tear that got stuck on my contact, I would be able to either A, blink it away, or if I wouldn't be able to blink it away, I'd at least be able to look at it, because it's still on my eye. But it was coming from my brain. The call came from inside the house. So I turned off the computer and I I have this staunch, I'm staunchly against looking up medical symptoms on the internet. But this time I just had to. I was like, oh my God, I'm going blind. Like every study I've read about screen time has said that I am going to be fine, but oh my gosh, I'm the exception. I'm patient zero for screen-based blindness. And I look it up, and it's something that's common. It's thank God. Because one of the worst things that you can have happen is like the internet is like, what are you talking about? Like you Google something, it's like, wow, that's never happened to a person. That person should be worried and afraid about what's going to happen next. But it turns out that this was like the beginning sign of kaleidoscope vision. So as I start, like as like the spot that was in my vision kind of grew and grew a little bit, it kind of turned into like an arch that happened at the outside of my vision, which is common, luckily. And the arch kind of looks like it's really hard to describe. It looks like you're looking through a kaleidoscope, essentially, and then you can also see. And when you close your eyes, the kaleidoscope is obviously still there, and that's super annoying because it's also off-center. So when you try to like go to sleep or rest your eyes, you're constantly looking at the only thing that you could possibly be looking at, which is the kaleidoscope that your brain has decided to make for fun. So I rested, and then I woke up the next morning with a pretty bad headache, and I figured I'd just take the day off from screens for the most part. So I couldn't watch TV on Wednesday. I couldn't watch TV on Thursday, which is when I was planning on watching all of the stuff that I usually talk about, and then I was planning on recording it later. And lo and behold, migraine time. So that proved to be pretty challenging. I'm feeling a lot better. I felt better on Friday, which was good because I was able to truly watch The Boys as it came out as intended on Friday. On Friday morning, watch people's hands get ripped off. It's sick. And then I watched my couple documentaries that I usually do for Hot Dog Tuesday. So we are all caught up here. We're good. We're set, and we're ready to keep going. So let's kind of talk about what's happening in the world of television right now. Jeopardy is airing its first COVID-era show tonight. Well, and by tonight, I mean it's Monday, so yesterday they aired their first COVID-era show, which is super exciting, I think. Alex Trebek is hosting, obviously. He has been pretty public about his stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which I wish him the best of luck. That sounds like it sucks really bad, and the fact that he's still hosting this show that he's been hosting for 35 years or something like that is super admirable. That's amazing that he's still doing that, and not only he is putting himself at risk by doing anything. Aren't we all? When we go to the store, we put ourselves at risk, but oh, sorry, I bumped you. When we go to the store, I put myself at risk, but it's risk management, you know? He doesn't have to film. There's shows that he's showing, but he's filming and he's doing it even when he has a really dire health issue. It's amazing. Once again, very admirable. The show is being filmed without an audience, which obviously. So it's gonna be weird. It's definitely gonna be really weird. I've been watching a lot of baseball, and I've been vaguely following basketball. And the games without the audience, it's weird. It's super weird. I think I talked about on one of the first episodes that I did for this show how baseball has holographed audience and pumped in crowd noise as to not shock people, because if you play basketball is a noisy game, right? If you think about it, think about all of the noises that happen during just a basketball game when there's no crowd. There's sneakers sneaking, there's the ball dribbling, there's the sound of passes, there's the sound of here, all of that. It's noisy, right? Period. Noisy. baseball, and also it's played on like wood. so like the wood makes noise when you step on it, obviously, and it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of noise in a basketball game. The refs whistle. With baseball, none of that. It's so quiet. Baseball is one of the quietest like sports out there. I mean, it's not even a contact sport. I was gonna say it's a contact sport. It's one of the quietest sports out there. And imagine like playing this sport with no crowd noise. It's insane. It would be so weird. It would be dead silent. Like the three sounds that you can hear in a baseball game are like, I got it, a ball hitting a glove, and the bat, and like a ball hitting a bat. Period. Like full stop. So I like it's just weird. Like I wish they would pump in crowd noise for baseball like that, or for Jeopardy. That'd be super funny. I feel like that would up viewership, or have like CGI'd in fans, like the one time they show the audience per show. I think that'd be super cool. Let me think. What else? October. So horror, obviously. Horror is such a like a staple for me. I watched, there was this podcast that released, and it spoke to me. And so I got into horror around, oh man, I don't know. I want to say like sophomore year. It was around the time Get Out came out. I remember, I think it was before Get Out came out, because Get Out was something I saw in theaters, and I saw Hereditary in theaters, and I don't think I was going to be able to see Hereditary in theaters before seeing another horror movie. It started, whatever year Lights Out came out, Lights Out was the first horror movie I saw in theaters. And that kind of like kickstarted it for me. So I kind of like trained myself into the horror genre, and then like I leaked myself into like American Horror Story and started getting into horror television, and then finally landing at The Haunting of Hill House, which I watched last summer. And The Haunting of Hill House is so sick. One thing that I'll talk about later in the show is how, like horror and like documentaries and horror use like the thing to like catch your attention as the setting rather than the subject, right? So let me see if I can find an example of like a normal movie, you know? Like a normal movie. Truman Show, okay? Truman Show, the movie in it, like in a log line, you can say like the movie is about, this is also not a movie podcast, it's a television podcast, but I'm getting there, okay? So the movie The Truman Show is at its base, like if you were to like share like what it's about a guy whose entire life is a television show. But that's not the story, that's the setting. The subject of the story is Truman, and how a person's life is under fire and manipulated on a base level. It's a story of a person who is being constantly manipulated and constantly lied to. The gimmick of the movie is merely the setting. So a lot of documentaries use this trick too. Like, for instance, oh man, I had a really good one right off the top. I was actually talking about one of the documentaries I'm going to talk about today with my mom, and I like thought about it, you know? Dang. All right. I'll remember it when I'll remember it later in the show, I promise. But back to Haunting of Hill House. So Haunting of Hill House is brilliant. The setting of the show, the like gimmick of the show, is these kids lived in this haunted house, and they left the haunted house, but the stories of the haunted house followed them, and their mom died in the house because she was like possessed or something. And the stories and the trauma that comes with the house, like the ghosts in the house are real, but the stories and the trauma of the house are within them, all of them. So that's the setting. The story is actually, it's a complex family drama about trauma, about the loss of a loved one, about a loved one going through kind of like severe emotional trauma, a loved one going through addiction, a loved one who is pushing it all aside, a loved one that is profiting off of their family's misery. It kind of gives a certain light to reality shows and stuff like that. And the reason why I talk about Haunting of Hill House, it's a fantastic television show, has some of the greatest episodes of like just cinema in television. The reason why I'm talking about it is because season 2 is coming out. It's called The Haunting of Bly Manor. I haven't watched the trailer because I hate them. I hate trailers. I can go off on that tangent right now if you'd like. Trailers, they do nothing but spoil the movie. Trailers are usually given to like a third-party company to make a trailer, and they're given like a hodgepodge of shots, and they're like, use these shots. And usually those shots are the most exciting shots in the of the movie or of the television show. So when you take the most exciting shots of the movie or the television show, they're usually coming from the most exciting part of the movie, which is usually the climax, and that spoils the movie. Period. Full stop. And I don't want the movie or the TV show to be spoiled. So if I know I'm going to watch something, I'm going to watch The Haunting of Bly Manor. I'm not going to watch the trailer. It's foolish. If it wanted to convince me, sure. But I know I'm going to watch it. So that's coming out in time for Halloween. I'm super excited about that. So about what I was talking about with horror movies, because I don't think I really got into that. You can train yourself to like horror. Like it's kind of like you wean yourself into it, I guess. Like you ease yourself into it. I listened to this podcast. It was called Reply. It was part of Reply All. It was called the Scaredy Cats podcast or something like that. And this one guy, PJ, he hates scary movies, and he wanted to learn to like scary movies because he feel like he missed out on like huge like cultural events because of Get Out, like when Get Out came out. So he wanted to like wean himself into horror movies. So he did. And he watched a couple. He watched Hereditary and Midsommar in like one sitting, which I wouldn't recommend for anybody. And then he finally like made his way to Get Out, and he liked it. It's because it's a good movie. So good for him. He liked it. But that's kind of how I did it. And then I started watching like American Horror Story, yada, yada, yada. I think I did talk about it. It's the migraine. The migraine is killing me. So I'm really excited for that. I'm also really excited for the new season of American Horror Story, despite what I say about Ryan Murphy. I hope American Horror Story is back. You know? Like, I hope it comes back full force. I hope 1984... I haven't seen 1984. I'm going to watch it, and I'll talk about it on the show. But I hope that brings back kind of like the base of what American Horror Story was in the beginning. You know? So... yeah, that's all the updates I think I had today. I don't think I have anything more. So when I come back, we're going to be doing some Hot Doc Tuesdaying with 2 documentaries that I watched. The first one being The Social Dilemma, and oh boy, do I have a lot to talk about on that. I've been talking about that for pretty much since I watched it. I've been talking about it and thinking about it and stuff like that. And then I'm going to be talking about the documentary... Oh, what's it called? It's called Raiders. Yeah, both of these are on Netflix, by the way. Most of the documentaries I watch are on Netflix. I should start watching some documentaries on Hulu to get the Hulu people happy. I've been getting emails from all those Huluers saying how angry they are that I only watch Netflix documentaries. I'll watch some Hulu documentaries, don't worry. All right, so when we come back, The Social Dilemma, a much talked about documentary, and Raiders. See you in a second.
Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. I'm your host, once again, Trey Plotnicki. And let's talk about some documentaries. We got another Hot Doc Tuesday coming right at you. Got two fresh documentaries right off the press. One of them is very popular. And the first one I'm going to be talking about, The Social Dilemma. Oh boy. So, I find when watching documentaries, you're not necessarily talking about the documentary, you're talking about, like, the subject that you're talking about. And this is, like, a really important one. Usually, I make an effort to say, like, the best documentaries that I watch are the documentaries that have no impact. And that's the second one I'm going to be talking about today. It has no impact whatsoever. It's just a fun story. This one has an impact, and a pretty big one, I think. It gathers, the documentary gathers a bunch of big tech former CEOs, former designers, former executives, high-level employees, inventors. They got the guy that invented the infinite scroll, and I hate that guy. He hates himself too, so that it evens out. So the documentary centers around the problem that social media has in America. And I'm not qualified to talk about this, but what I am qualified to talk about is I'm qualified to talk about my social media usage. And I relate. I've been having this issue. So I've been wanting to delete Facebook for a while, like my own Facebook. I keep hearing about it. And the problem is I kept hearing about it from another social media site that I was using, and I was like, oh my god, they're so right. I'm going to delete Facebook and then keep using this social media site that I'm using. So when I deleted Facebook, I didn't delete my Facebook account. I just deleted it off my phone, and I go on Facebook on my computer when I want to, because remember, these are websites too. They're not just apps. Like, it's a website. It started off as a website. So I deleted Facebook, and I noticed, like, my screen time report, because I have an iPhone. I noticed my screen time report still never went down. I expected it to go down, but I was spending less time on Facebook, so that overall net positive. Less time on Facebook equals net happiness, baby. Because I wasn't seeing the memes. I wasn't seeing, like, people that are, like, educators making fools of themselves. Like, stuff like that. Like, posting stupid memes that have no research or mean nothing. But my screen time usage never plummeted the way I expected it to. And I found that all of that social media usage was going into Reddit or Twitter or Instagram. Also owned by Facebook, by the way, Instagram. So, like, what what am I doing? Like, at that point, like, what was going on? And I didn't, like, really recognize it. But you kind of, like, become... This documentary definitely opened my eyes to, like, what that is. Because these sites, the same way that news media, like Fox News and CNN and MSNBC, they're all competing for your attention, right? And whether that attention is positive or negative doesn't matter, because all the advertisers see are views, right? So if MSNBC fires you up and you want to hate watch them, sure. It's still a view in the advertiser's pocket. Same with Fox News. Same goes for Fox News. Same goes for CNN. Same goes for pretty much any news site. And what was really popular, I remember, in, like, the early 2000s and, like, maybe even the 90s, is a lot of these news organizations were attacking gaming, like, a lot, I remember. Like, making them a cause for violence. They were attacking music as a cause for violence. And they were attacking, like, competing media, essentially. Like, if you're not watching the news, you shouldn't be playing video games. Why are you playing video games? Watch us. Be informed. Stay informed. Quit playing those video games. They're going to make you want to kill your dog. And that's essentially, like, the premise of the social dilemma. I guess. It's all of these social media sites saying that the other social media site is going to kill your dog. I will say, so at the end of the documentary, before I get into like really talking about what it was about, at the end of the documentary, what it made me do was it had me delete every app off my phone. It had me delete Reddit. I don't have Reddit on my phone anymore. I could just go on Reddit on my computer. It had me delete Twitter. Same. Had me delete Instagram. I don't really post on Instagram, and I don't, like, I just deleted it. I guess I should. Like, I really should have, like, a professional thing. But the problem is, like, having a professional thing is, like, just an instant gateway into me having, like, an actual thing. And then I start using it. And that's how they get you. That's literally how they get you. Let me think. What else did I delete? I want to delete YouTube off my phone, but then what am I going to do when I poop? What am I going to do when I poop if I take YouTube off my phone? I'm just going to sit there and do nothing. Well, I have the New York Times crossword app that I've been toying around with, so I guess that could occupy my attention, or I could just sit with my thoughts, you know? So I don't really know. Yeah, I like. Well, let me talk about what the doc was about. The doc was, it was. It's really hard to describe. It talks about what the issue is, and a lot of people can't really describe what the issue is. Heck, even the people whose jobs it is to figure out what the issue is don't know what the issue is. They have a hard time answering that question because there's no one real person. However, when you accurately identify what the problem is, and the person that has the power to fix it, aka like a lot of these big tech CEOs, and they don't, then we know who the problem is. So, for example, at this point, I think the issue with social media, the issue with Facebook, Twitter, yada, 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 has been pretty adequately articulated, right? The problem is this AI that was created in like 2010 has been doing some machine learning craziness in a basement in California somewhere, and it has gotten to the point where it's gotten so good at its jobs that for some reason the AI has gotten so good at what it does, which is recommend people stuff to see, that it brainwashes people into a state of thinking. And this is an issue. So that's the issue. The people that can solve the issue are the people that own the companies. But the people that own the companies make money from these machines brainwashing people because it makes them look at more stuff. And the longer they're looking at Facebook, the longer they're looking at Twitter, the more advertised content that they see on their screens. So you kind of just get into this tricky situation where you're now combating a group of billionaires and saying, please stop making money. Like the government is like, please stop making money and think of humanity. And then Mark Zuckerberg goes, nah, I'll think about it. I'll think about stop making money. Give me a month. Give me a month. I'll have your answer in a month. So the documentary kind of centers around this guy named Tristan, who is a co-founder of the Center for Humane Technology, he's someone who is trying to combat this, right? He's actively trying to stop the world from ending. The guy who founded Pinterest, I think it is, he's worried about a civil war breaking out because of this stuff. And we've noticed that we're getting more and more divided, and like as a country politically. And this divide starts in an interesting spot. It starts when we all had, like when Facebook's app came on our phones, when Twitter's app came on our phones, when YouTube's app came on our phones. It started with that. The social dilemma is it's crazy. It's really eye-opening. And getting to the technical aspect of it, the way it presents the story is, I rolled my eyes. Big time rolled my eyes. It's, but later down the line, it's pretty effective because it does some like dramatizations of what like the machine does, kind of like what the AI does. And it starts out like an anti-phone PSA. Like it starts out like a instructional video for a mom of how to get phones from the kitchen table. And it becomes this story of how how YouTube and Facebook accidentally like turns a high school kid into like a militant far right or far left person. You know? It's really interesting. And that's like, and the documentary like frames the scripted part of the story and juxtaposes it with what the experts are saying. And at the end, they say delete everything off your phone. Delete it all. Get rid of it. Because everything's competing for your screen time. And everything's designed to make you want to look at it longer. Which is the issue. Because why like, if you want to make, like, it's designed to make it more addictive. Like, you don't want anything to do that. Because that's like, if it's constantly prying for your attention, that's not something that is going to be useful to you. You know? It's really good. It's like a really, really good documentary. So yeah, I mean, the reason why I didn't end with this is because of the somber note that I've found myself on. So I started with it, and I find myself in a somber state right now. But I'm about to get a whole lot happier because I'm going to talk about another documentary called Raiders, which is about two 11-year-old kids. Technically, three 11-year-old kids who spent 7 years making a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark. And that's a documentary that I watched. So I'm super excited to talk about that. And if you stick around till the end of the show, I'll be talking about The Boys. And I'm super excited to be talking about The Boys with you guys. So stick around, and we will be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. I'm your host, Trey Plotnicki, once again, and we are going to talk about a happier documentary than the first one. The first one's great and all, and everyone should watch it, but let's, can we get back to the happiness and the smiles? Where did my smile go during that entire segment? We're going to be talking about Raiders, a documentary that centers around three 11-year-old kids and their journey to make a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, this kind of like hits home. Like, this is super cool. Because didn't we all want to make movies when we were little? Let me tell a personal anecdote. This has been the podcast of personal anecdotes for me. When I was Oh man. Oh man, I don't really know. I want to say I was in 6th grade. I started making sketches, and they were called Wonderful World of. I don't think they're on YouTube anymore, but if they are, like, find them. Because so we called them Wonderful World of. We attempted to, like, what it attempted to do was, like, satirize. Like, I think that I didn't quite know what satire was, but, like, that's what I was trying to do. Like, I was trying to satirize Pokemon. I was trying to satirize Dora the Explorer. I was trying to satirize, what was another one? Mario. And we did this in, like, this frame of, like, the wonderful world of Pokemon, you know? The wonderful world of Dora the Explorer. Yeah, you get the idea. So I did these videos when I was younger. It was with me. My sister was holding the camera. My little sister was in them. My neighbors were in them. And we just posted them on YouTube and saw what happened. Just gold of early YouTube. Like, I always think about, like, if somebody, like, found those videos and held them up on the pedestal that they deserve to be held on. Like, how, like, they could be, like, cult classics, you know? And especially after watching the documentary I just watched, like, those videos could be, like, cult hits, you know? They're silly, they're stupid, they don't make too much sense. They follow a vague plot line, but not really. What was fun about them, though, was, like, you just kind of did it yourself. Like, we didn't know how to make a movie, you know? We didn't have anyone that was, like, in my house that was, like, passionate about actual film. Like, my sister held the camera and kind of edited it, but, like, I just wanted to do everything. Like, I remember, very clearly, I wanted to do it all. I wanted to hold the camera. I also wanted to be in front of the camera. I wanted to edit it. I wanted to be every part. I wanted to make sure I had full and total control of this thing. And obviously I couldn't. Because it seemed like everyone was just goofing around and, like, having too many ideas. It's like, I hate your ideas. I love my ideas. Use my ideas. Get your ideas out of here. But I mean, I obviously didn't say that. We all got along. It was fun. But I understand, like, the appeal, though, of, like, making a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like, you see Raiders of the Lost Ark and you're like, oh man, I gotta make that. Like, I have to make that. I need to see if it was possible. Like, I want to do it. I want to see what I can learn by doing it. Without these boys knowing it, one of the things that you learn in, like, film school, like, when you learn to be, like, an on-screen actor, there's an assignment that I did where you have to pick a scene and do it shot for shot exactly, and follow every movement, say exactly what they say, how they say it, when they say it, everything down to, like, the blinks, and you do it shot for shot, like 100% exact, except replace the actors, and you learn a lot from that. The same way you learn a lot from, like, making a exact replica of a Van Gogh painting or something, or, like, studying the greats. You know, you study the greats and you learn from and you mimic the greats and you learn from your ability to mimic. You know, I mean, that's pretty much what school is, isn't it? No one's doing anything original. It's just derivative off of a derivative. You know, everybody's inspired by someone. So without those boys knowing it, they were doing a college level project, and I'm sure it helped them a lot. It definitely did, because they started their own, like, film company after they finished the last part of the movie. So let's talk about the documentary. Segue past my my elementary school experience, 6th grade. So the documentary centers around two guys. I wish their names are escaping me so bad right now. I'm so bad at names. I know the guy who played Indiana Jones, who wanted to do it in the first place. His name was Chris. And then the other guy who's like the visionary, he was like the director, the producer, he did all the storyboards and stuff. He wanted to do it to see if it was possible. The other guy just wanted to do it, you know? But they both really wanted to do it. They were super passionate about it. They filmed it all, like, they filmed it over summers, over Christmas breaks. It consumed, like, every waking moment of their days off out of school for, like, 7 years. It's insane. Right? And they finished it. They made the VHS, and they did every single scene of Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, except for one, which was the Nazi plane scene. Because obviously, they couldn't afford a plane. Because they're 11. They're in high school, right? So, like, I don't know, years and years later, they get together and they find producers to make the movie, to finish the movie. But in the meantime, the film gets found, right? And you know how they're like crazies out there? Yeah, so like, bear with me. Crazy people, you know about them? So there's some crazies out there who like these bad films, you know? And there are bad filmathons, like unseen gems. And this was one of them. This was one of them that was found its way into a bad film festival. And it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, except done by 12-year-olds, right? And people loved it. Not only did, like, it was like, it's kind of like the game of it, you know? Like, everyone's seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, and they're like, the people that go to these bad film festivals are film nerds. Like, so of course they've seen every shot of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? So they are watching this thing in this film festival because, like, the film festival was already slotted, so they're just playing it during breakfast because it's like a 24-hour thing. So they're playing it during breakfast, and there's only 45 minutes for breakfast. And they're, like, waiting with bated breath at this film festival for, like, if they can do it next. Like, if they can do the next scene. Like, the spectacle of it all is brilliant. Like, it kind of reminds me of improv games, where it's like you're not really... Some improv games you're watching for good improv, but most improv games you're watching to see if they could do it, you know? And you're also kind of watching to see if they fail. But there's truly a moment where it's like, is this bad or is this like genius, you know? And I think it's genius. I think it's genius. I really do. I don't. There's not much. There's not much like you can say more on it. So like these bad movies, like Birdemic. Everyone's heard about Birdemic. Birdemic was like, it's like this movie that came out where it's like the birds are killing people or something. And it's not crows. It's just Birdemic. There's an epidemic of birds. It's silly. And then there's The Room, which the Disaster Artist was made famous by. And the Disaster Artist is kind of in that like same style, you know? Where you take Tommy Wiseau and you take brilliant actors and you see if the brilliant actors can do it, you know? If they can like do the bad scenes. And they can, and it's like the game of it, you know? So the game of the movie was like, can these 12-year-olds do the boulder scene? Do they have the resources to do the boulder scene? Do they have the resources to do the bar that gets set on fire? You know? The fights, the blood, everything. The person that gets set on fire, the gunshots, the smoke effects, you know? It's crazy. It's cool. It's really cool. And it's amazing what, like... It's amazing what like kids in the 80s got away with. Like I wish I grew up in the 80s because I could have gotten away with setting people on fire. Like that'd be sick. And like completely blameless. Like I was just shooting a movie and it's like, all right, dinner in 5. You know? So they get back together and produce the plane scene like I don't know, 30 years later, 35 years later. And they do it. And they finish the movie. There's this one dramatic scene. I mean, a lot of the movie's pretty dramatic. Like, a lot of the doc is pretty dramatic. they're like moments of one of the guys about to lose his job because he spent 9 days trying to film this thing and make it perfect. The pyrotechnics guy almost gets blown up, which is crazy. Like he like passes out, and the first thing he says is, "Did you get the shot?" And then he goes, "Yeah, we got the shot. Are you okay? Like we're like you good? You kind of got blowed up, dude." And he like fell over, and he fell over backwards, and oh man, it was pretty bad. But it's amazing. I mean, they showed like the Raiders shot, and then on top of the stuff they filmed, and it's like exact. It's sick. It's so cool. Like it's really cool. The amount of time that takes to like storyboard it out and everything. Overall, the presentation of the doc, if we can talk about like technical stuff, presentation's pretty good. They do a good job compiling interviews. The story is well like woven together. The pacing of it all is really nice. The story is kind of framed within the present day shooting of it. So it kind of goes to like shooting of it, and then it goes to like a hurdle in their shooting of it and how that hurdle relates back to previous in the story. They met Steven Spielberg, which is like sick. Because like the first, like, well, not like in their adult lives, but like when they were younger. They also did like tons of news circuits and stuff when they were making it. It's like amazing. And the film became like a cult classic. Like people love it. And it's on a VHS somewhere. It's just it was such a cool story. And I'm really glad that I don't know. I'm glad that was the one I picked. Like I kind of just picked these at random. Well, I'm glad that was the one I picked because it kind of hit home for me. I was once a young filmmaker. I still kind of am. I still film like weird, like 30-second sketches. So like this means something. And I was passionate about movies too. You know? Wonderful World of. So yeah. I guess that's all I have to say on the matter. It was a great documentary. High recommend. Pretty much every documentary that I'm going to talk about on the show is a high recommend. So just watch it, you know? Like I don't have to say it anymore. Just watch it. So let's talk about The Boys. Coming up next. Reach the final segment of the show. We're going to talk about The Boys. Big boys. And then I'll bid you farewell. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the final segment of this episode of the GSMC Television Podcast. I am your host, Trey Plotnicki, and let's get into The Boys. The Boys! If you can't tell, my voice is a little tired. Usually what happens is I do the show, right? And my voice gets super tired, but as I do the show more, my voice gets better, you know? Like, I get stamina. That's how muscles work. Your voice is a muscle. So I get stamina, but because I had to skip Friday's show, now my voice is completely shot. So we reached the end of the show. Because I usually do it all in one sitting. So it's a little behind-the-scenes factoid for y'all. So let's talk about The Boys. Episode 4 came out. I wish the rest of the season came out. What I really hate is I hate that people are review bombing The Boys. This is the first I've heard about it. People are review bombing it. Can you believe that? It's just terrible, man. So the reason why people are review bombing it. Let's get to the nitty gritty rumors and misinformation with Trey. Here's why I think people are review bombing it. From what I've read, people are review bombing it because it didn't drop all at once like season 1. And I just can't get behind that. I really can't. Like you are giving a show a bad rating, and that rating determines whether or not the show is going to be renewed for season 3, and you're reviewing it based off of 3 episodes that you watched probably all in a row and liked probably all in a row. And the reason why you are upset is because you like the episode so much that you can't watch all of the season. And on top of that, you're reviewing a season of a show that hasn't fully aired yet. You know? Like, people are reviewing episode by episode of, like television shows, sure. But when you're reviewing, like, an Amazon show, like a season of a show, you're reviewing The Boys Season 2 when you're putting these, like, reviews down. It's just so frustrating. And I want there to be a season 3 so bad. And I think they already renewed it for a season 3, and I hope they renew it for a season 4. But like, it's just so absurd that people are giving it bad reviews because they can't binge watch their show. So what they did is, if you didn't listen last week, they like staggered their release because Amazon probably got wise to the fact that it's good to stagger release because that means you get more subscription costs if people are sticking around. Like Disney was doing it. Like if you have an 8-episode series and you release one a week, you get them for 2 months instead of them just buying on launch, watching all of the content, and then tuning out, and then just dipping, like canceling their subscription immediately. And they probably have done the research that if like you hang on to a subscription for like X amount of months, you're definitely going to be keeping it for this amount of months, you know? It's just like, ugh, man. It's so annoying that people... Like, I'm all for a business doing what it needs to do as a business, so long as it, like, isn't harmful to the consumer. But, damn, dude. Like, this is television 101. I don't care if we're in the age of binge watching and streaming. Like, TV 101, you wait a week for the next episode. It makes it more palatable, too. It gives something people to talk about. Like, it's better advertisement for your show. I don't know. But anyway, episode 4 was really good, as I thought. It was truly revealed that Stormfront was racist, which, great. It was also revealed that she is a timeless racist, because she was also a hero in the 70s. They went by the name of Liberty, which was kind of sick. I love that, like, it's probably has something to do with, like, the superhero genre as a whole. But, like, I love how they have these names like Stormfront and Liberty and, like, Starlight and Homelander, and then they're just terrible people. Like, horrible, horrible people. It's fantastic. Like, the irony of it all. It's like, oh, no, we have to go up against Liberty, and she's, like, a racist. She hates everybody. But, yeah, and the gore doesn't stop either. Like, what Liberty did back in the day, we don't know for sure if Liberty is Stormfront, but we're pretty sure. What Liberty did to that, like, little girl's dad, I think it was, or brother or something, back in the day, oh my God. Like, they showed that face. Like, that, oh man, I was really bad. His entire face was crushed, and he was, like, making noises and stuff. Ugh. Bad. Bad. Oh, what else? What else happened? Oh, Butcher got to see his wife. That was nice. I look forward to where that goes, because now Black Noir knows, because he saw the CCTV footage. I'm really excited for what Black Noir has in store this time, because from what I hear, I think Black Noir and Butcher are going to have like a meeting of the minds or something. And from what I've read some spoilers about the comics, and I won't do any spoilers talks here, but from reading what the comics had cooked up, Black Noir is going to be nothing like that. Oh, man. Well, they did kind of like... Yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything. Not going to spoil anything too much. They also revealed that Homelander has this weird thing with the shape-shifting guy. We saw the shape-shifting guy in season 1, and his goal, his like use was to blackmail one of the senators or something like that for the CEO of Vought. And that was dope. I like how we're getting more of a look at the boys and a more look at the heroes instead of like the corporation, you know? Like the corporation is still present, but we know the corporation as soulless, essentially. Like there's no personality behind them. And we know the heroes just so much more, which I'm liking a lot about this season. What else? So Homelander has this weird thing with the shapeshifter, where he gets the shapeshifter to like be the former CEO's name. I can't remember what her name is, but he gets him to be her, and then like feeds him milk. Oh, it's so weird. Homelander's thing with milk is just so weird, man. Oh, it's so weird. I'm closing and rubbing my eyes right now thinking about it. Just the milk, man. Oh, it's so weird. I finally started watching interviews with the people cast of The Boys, and oh my god, none of them have the accents that they're using. Well, Mother's Milk, Huey, and somebody else has like the accents that I think they do. But Anthony Starr, who plays Homelander, nothing. Bupkis, not even close to his accent. It's kind of wild. But so at the end of the episode, he kills the shapeshifter because this part was just shocking, and I was like so confused, and not confused in like the what is going on, but confused in like the personal way, where Homelander was confronting. Well, Stormfront and Homelander confronted each other. And then it ended up in a conversation where it's like, I have followers and you have fans. Like, this is different. I'm building an army and you have like a couple grandmas on your side. Like, what are you going to do? And then Homelander's like, oh my God, you're right. And so he goes back to where his deceased shape-shifting wife is, and he turns into him. So they're two Homelanders, and then like the shape-shifted Homelander tries to seduce the real Homelander, and it's like, oh, you want you want it to be about you? I can make this about you all you want. And oh man, it's just so wild. And then he kills him, and Homelander, and that's how the episode ends. That was a pretty good death too. It's like a 10 out of 10 death. Because like these deaths obviously have like consequences. Like he's a well-known figure in the hero community, you know, the shape-shifting guy. Like it's not like these B-list heroes are no ones. Like there's somebodies. Like it's same with Haley Joel Osment when he was in the show last season. I forgot he was in the show last season, and I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like, the show's really good. Like I'm super glad it's like kind of, it's picking up the pace definitely, and I'm really excited for next episode. I'm excited to see where it goes too, because I think similar to Barry, the pace of this show is fast, like super fast. Like Barry kind of makes it so it's like, all right, like we can accomplish this in 4 episodes, or we can just do it in 1, and then we can get to where we want to go next. And they're like, all right, let's do it in 1. Let's get to where we want to go next. Like, why does that need to drag out over 4 episodes? And it's like sick. And it just makes for like an exciting show, and you want to know what happens next. And every episode is exciting and new, and like you're in a new spot. Every character has a new like stance, you know, like vision of the future. And that's awesome. Like, it does, like, nothing feels stable, and that's, like, good for a TV show. Barry does that super well. Like, every episode, a character has a want and desire that is either met or isn't met. And if it's met, good. And then they can move on, and they have a new desire at the next episode, and that's made super clear by the end of the first episode, or the initial episode. And if it's not met, there are consequences to that, and those consequences will be dealt with in the next episode. Like, it's just so good. Barry does that. There's a death at the end of every episode of Barry. It's just good. It's good, period. Full stop. So, yeah, I'm really excited to where The Boys goes next. As far as, like, what happened with The Boys, like, Starlight and Huey can't see each other anymore, which is understandable. Like, normally I hate when it's like, we can't see each other anymore. It's not safe. I don't feel safe. Like, I felt safe with you before, but I don't feel safe now. That's my impression of Starlight. But it feels right with The Boys. I don't know. Like, that trope felt right. Maybe it's too, like, maybe it's the fact that it's superhero satire that it feels right, because it's like you're satirizing the very thing that created this trope in the first place. I don't know. I'm really excited to where they go next. I'm so glad The Boys is back on TV. Very excited. So that's all I have to say. If you want to say more, leave a comment in the YouTube video, send an email, do anything. Contact me. If you liked the podcast, leave a review of the podcast. That really helps us out. You could do that on Apple Podcasts. You can do it on Spotify. If you can leave a like, you can leave a comment. Any help is appreciated. Make sure you hit that subscribe button or follow button wherever you're listening. If you want to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even though I talked about deleting those, before you delete it, follow us. That would be greatly appreciated. And past that, thank you so much for watching. And I hope you tune in again next week. Hopefully this Friday I do not have another migraine, because I would like to do the show. So take care, everybody. Bye-bye. And have a fantastic rest of your week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.